So let's transform you from a poor student running out of their student loan 3 weeks before the end of term and having to live off 50p instant noodles to a money-savvy student who can enjoy their university experience without having to worry about how much money they have left in their bank account. I studied at a top university in London with a student loan that barely covered my rent. This is my money survival guide that got me through 4 years in this high cost of living city. I'll give you the answers to the 4 most common money problems that students have. Yes, I had these money problems too, and what I wish I would have done. Problem number 1. At the beginning of the month, you receive a massive cash injection into your bank account and you feel like the richest person around. You're ready to splash the cash on whatever you want. 20-person round? No problem. A big shopping spree? Your loan's got you covered. Eating out 5 days a week? Why not? If you're like me, then this is probably the most money you've ever seen in your bank account. But it doesn't last long. 3 weeks before the end of term, those thousands of pounds all of a sudden look like a few hundred quid, and you're having to stretch your money to be able to live. This is where you turn to the instant noodles, the Tesco value vodka, and having to choose which dinner is worth the last few pennies in your account. So how do we stretch out your loan so it can last the whole term? Let's talk about cash flow. So student finance pay your loan 3 times a year, once at the beginning of each term. Now this is going to seem like a lot of money when you initially get your loan, but you've got to remember that your living expenses are now much higher than when you were at home, because you've got to pay for things like rent, food and bills. So how do you actually stretch out this loan to last you the whole term? So what you need to do is find out how much loan you get per term and then divide that total number by the number of weeks in a term. So if I got the average maintenance loan of around £8,000 a year, and then I divided this by 3 terms a year and 10 weeks per term, I would have a total of £285 to spend per week. So what you need to do to stop yourself from spending too much of this money is have 2 different accounts. The first one is where your loan is paid into, and the second one is where you send this spending money. So each week you would set up a direct debit from your main account to your spending account of £285 a week. This makes it much easier for you to track how much you're spending and see if you're spending too much at the start of term. Now, once you've done this calculation, you might find that the weekly amount of loan that you have to spend isn't enough to cover your total costs, in which case you might need to look into getting a supplementary income. This brings us on to problem number 2. Now, the maximum amount of maintenance loan that you can get per year is around £9,000, but this is based on your parents' income. So if your total household income is over £100,000 a year, the total loan that you'd be eligible for is much closer to £4,000. This is because the government expects your parents to contribute towards your living costs whilst you're at uni. So calculate the difference between the maximum maintenance loan and the maintenance loan that you are eligible for. And this gap is the amount of money that the government expects your parents to contribute. Yes, parents, this really is the fairest way to decide how much money to loan your children if you've got multiple children of different ages going to university at different times. This is because the government loans increase each year to take into consideration the cost of living and inflation. So for many of you, your loan may not cover your total living costs. This is especially true in cities like London, Bristol, Bath, Cambridge or Oxford. And whilst I was studying in London, this was the case for me. My student loan wouldn't even cover my total rent and essential living expenses. Now, one way to boost your income is to get a part-time job. If your uni workload is slightly lighter, then you may be able to get a part-time job to do on the weekends. However, if you're busy with clubs and societies on the weekend, or you've got a higher workload, then you may not be able to do this. In this case, the best thing that you can do is find a flexible job that you can pick up during the holidays and work some extra shifts. Now this puts your free time to good use, but also means ready for the next term you have a nice, boosted, healthy looking balance. So if you are doing this part-time work, then just take the total amount you earn in that holiday and divide by 10 to work out how much additional money you have to spend per week. Problem number 3. Let's face it. Analysing your finances is probably not top of your list. You have a degree that you're trying to study for whilst balancing your social activities, going out and doing sports and other clubs. Your term time is already super busy, and to be honest, you're not really at home much at all. So what if I told you you could get on top of your finances in 5 minutes a week? First off, do the calculation that I talked about in step 1 so you have that weekly allowance of money that you can spend. Then take 5 minutes to check if you're spending in line with this weekly budget. So are you spending more or less than the amount you've allocated? Then have a scroll through your transactions and have a look at any payments that you either don't recognise or you wish you hadn't spent the money on. Make a note of these in a notebook and keep them somewhere safe. You may also want to go through your transactions and make a note of any purchases that made you really happy or you're really glad you spent the money on. So keep track of both of these because these are your spending values and your misalignments. And you want to increase your spending on the things that made you happy whilst reducing the amount of spending on the things that you didn't value or didn't recognise. Now, if you're continuously overspending, this is a sign that you either need to increase your income by getting a part-time job on the weekends or in your holidays, or you need to reduce your spending. So these 5 minutes should help you keep on top of your basic finances. Problem number 4. When you're a student, you probably have the most free time and freedom that you ever will have in your life. But the issue is you don't have much money. This is the money-time paradox. However, you need to make the most of this free time because when you start working, you typically get only 25 days holiday versus those long 3 months you get off in your uni summer. I definitely recommend using some of this free time for a part-time job. You may also want to go traveling or on holiday, or use this free time to learn a new skill or pick up a new hobby or go join a new social group. These activities can be a lot of fun and ultimately may make you more employable later. Now, a more affordable way you can go on holiday is staying with your new friends who live in different cities or different countries. This way, you get a local tour guide plus free accommodation, and you get to spend really good quality time with your friends. You could also go interrailing around Europe or a lower cost country like somewhere in Southeast Asia if you're wanting to go travelling for a bit of a longer time. And make the most of hostels, cooking a few meals at home, or larger accommodation if you're in a bigger group. Don't let this lack of money stop you from enjoying your long summer holidays. There are so many things that you can do with just a little bit of money, so get out there and enjoy yourself. And if you are wanting to go traveling in those long summer holidays and you're looking for a way to cut costs without compromising on your travel experiences, then check out this video here where I run through my most money savvy travel tips.